Hey everybody, I'm Matt Boyle.
And I'm Sean Pawelec. We're both computer science teachers. We teach at the Renaissance Charter High School for Innovation. It's in East Harlem. We teach BJC and we also teach software engineering program through the DOE. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So we started, we were part of the first group of teachers in the SEP program, the Software Engineering Pilot Program from the DOE. This is our third year doing the program, and this AP Computer Science Principles course was written in Berkeley. They got a National Science Foundation grant to bring the curriculum across the country. So through CSNYC and the Department of Ed and Software Engineering Pilot, we're able to offer this in our school as an option kind of in our software engineering program at our school.
It's actually the last course in our sequence. So you go first year Intro to Engineering 2, and then this would be our fourth year. Right. It's actually our third now because that's not built out yet. But
yeah.
How many students do you have going through your program?
Maybe about 90? No, like 70.
Yeah, probably about 70.
At the end, it'll be about 90.
All our sections.
So it goes like 25, and then once you get to this, it's like 17 kids because they kind of, some kids stay, some kids don't, some kids get added.
But the SEP courses are not necessarily a prereq at all for this course, and that's one of the things we're going to be talking about. Just we have a very wide range of students taking this course right now. So in teaching computer science in schools, two of the main problems that we always run up against is how do you find teachers who are trained to teach it? How do you train teachers who don't have any computer science skills, and then how do you get students engaged in computer science? So the beauty and joy of computing curriculum makes it really easy for students with no experience in computer science to actually learn a lot of the main computer science concepts. It's a block language. It's drag and drop, so it's really easy for them to use. And they always have, it's almost always project-based learning. They're always working on a project that they immediately see the results of just based on the program and how it works.
How many people are familiar with Snap or Scratch or, so everybody, how many people have used it, like are fluent in it? Okay. Just trying to gauge where we're going to go today.
Yeah, sure. We're going to be running a sample lesson as well. So is everybody at least sitting next to someone who has a computer? We're going to try some pair programming.
It's okay if you don't work with someone, but the activity would work a lot better if you do work with somebody. How many people have pair programs? Okay.
So for our students, getting them interested in our course, there's a lot of obstacles they face, and one of the main ones is they're either turned off by computer science because it sounds very, very mathy, and they don't think they can do it, and they also don't see themselves as coders or students who would even be able to participate or write code at all. So that's one of the best things about this course. It focuses on this language exclusively. So they're not learning any syntax. The entry point for the language is really easy. It's drag and drop. You guys know, like Scratch. Very easy to use. Very easy to get results.
We have a lot of L's. We have a lot of IP students. We have a lot of what everyone else has and talks about a lot. But it really is like, I mean, when we start doing this stuff, we like connect it. They like just, blank faces. They're totally confused. We go to this and everyone's literate. Everybody's not scared. They're ready to learn, and this face goes away and Fozzie Bear comes out.
So the objective that the writers of the curriculum had, where they wanted to bring some of the best, most powerful concepts of computing into the curriculum. The curriculum is it's based on building projects every day. Every lesson is building projects. So they're constantly tapping into their creative side when they're working in class. And another interesting part of the curriculum is the whole social implications of computing piece. We do computers in the news as a sort of a regular practice where we'll have kids research what's going on and present on that. And then we do probably at the end of every unit, there's a whole social implications piece where we're reading articles and talking about technology and computers and how it's shaping society. So it's taking a very well-rounded sort of global approach to computer science. See if you can play that too. So we went through the training last year. We worked through the entire curriculum on our own, Sean and I, and then we had a week-long sort of intensive training session in the summer. So it was pretty easy to learn the language. We had experience with Scratch, but some of the main differences are you can, at least at the time, I think you can do it in Scratch now, but you can build your own blocks, you can get into like higher level recursive functions.
It also just feels more grown up. You know, Scratch has that like baby feel to it. Feels a little bit like middle school or elementary school. Snap, the kids were like, they first saw it and they were like, ah, Scratch again. They had done it 2 years ago. They're writing, you know, actual code now, and then we go almost backwards in their eyes. But once they got it, they were like, wow, this is maybe a grown-up language. It's actual real ideas. And,
yeah. And for teachers with no experience doing computer science, it was very easy to learn the language and to get content in and how to teach. And for our students, they're coding and they're building really interesting, weird, experimental things right off the bat, and we find that they really, really enjoy it. Again, the language, although most of you are familiar with Scratch, is basically the same thing. We're dragging and dropping English-based block code, running blocks of code by clicking buttons. Very little typing, no syntax, and it's one language that's covering all of the main concepts of computer science as opposed to learning 5 or 6 different languages through the course of the year and having to switch gears as far as syntax goes. Like we said, we also do pair programming. That's a big part of the curriculum. It's funny, in the beginning, a lot of our students are very resistant to pair programming. They all want to work on their own, do their own projects. They don't want anyone else to be responsible for their success. But it is a big part of the curriculum. It makes perfect sense. It's how the real world works. And
convincing them that though, that the real world works like this, you got to work with somebody. They're like, this isn't real. Like, you just want us to, like, you know, be more engaged or, you know, work together and learn some sort of characteristic we don't need. And we had some people come in, they were actual programmers, and they were like, yeah, no, we actually use this, and usually there's more people than 2. And the kids were like, oh, really? And then they still didn't like it, but we're working on it. So you guys, I don't know, has anybody had experience doing this and had success?
I was going to go in the opposite direction and say, I do find it's difficult.
It is, right?
To want to work together. And I try to promote it as this environment of it being collaborative. But it's not necessarily as close to pair programming. It's more of like, hey, work in groups on this one thing that you're all working together on, and you can talk about ideas and things like that.
That's awesome, right?
Yeah. It works in some capacities, but it's not the ideal I had where they would be like really gravitate toward it. I still find there's the students who just really, they find it distracting to be around other students. So it's a work in progress.
Our class, we matter by trade or not like lectures. We don't stand in front of the room and, you know, just get a PowerPoint out and do this. We usually take out the lab, everyone get out the lab manual or, you know, get the PDF open, and they all work together on it, right? So they're not necessarily pair programming always, but everyone's like, oh, I got it. Oh, how'd you do that? And someone comes up and shares it, and then Matt's like, oh, let's walk through that part. And that's like pair programming sort of, and it works a little better for some reason.
With our kids, the moment we backed off making it an official flip in the classroom, like, okay, today we're doing pair programming, and then I was just, as soon as we got away from that, and we allowed sort of more of an open format where you can work, you can talk, everyone's talking.
It's like a workshop.
Everyone's pair programming anyway, so they do it naturally.
So hopefully we can do that today. Hopefully everyone gets excited and we're like, yeah, we got it. And someone's like, then one of you come up here and show us.
So why is pair programming better than this kind of organic, you know, loosey-goosey, do what feels right thing?
I don't know. That's a great question. I like the loosey-goosey thing. We're trained to pair program. I don't think it's wrong. I think it's just something they do in the job. And, you know, to get to, you know, an efficient place, I think when you're in, a real world setting, it's just more realistic. I know it's not the best answer, but.
In our classroom, the organic, loosey-goosey format is pair programming.
Yeah.
They're doing it anyway. It's just without announcing it and making it.
You want to go, and then you want to go?
It has a lot to do with classroom culture.
Yeah.
So if you have a classroom culture, and this is something that also helps distinguish between novice teachers and expert teachers, not in computer science, but in any domain.
Definitely, yeah.
Paired programming creates a structure by which a novice teacher who might be struggling a little bit with their classroom culture can set up a format in which you're going to work with this person. There are protocols around the communication that the two of you are going to have. Right? Because you could imagine a first or second year teacher might have more trouble implementing
this loosey-goosey,
where there's this open-ended where everyone stays on task and is productive throughout the classroom. Right? So the structure of pair programming is really super useful as a pedagogical starting point. And then as that develops in your classroom, you can pull from that and utilize the better parts of that pedagogy without all of the structure if you have that kind of structure based on your own experience and your teaching.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was also my experience with pair programming is that, like, the open and, like, just, okay, work openly. They're going to work more often with kids they're comfortable with or their friends versus exposing them to, like, multiple perspectives. So, and especially with the idea of, like, designing something or coming up with an idea, that and not to say that you do it in the beginning, you're like, no, you're working with that kid that you hate, and I'm just going to call it. But eventually having kids work with kids that they don't typically interact with, like, opens up, like, different ideas. Like, oh, I never thought of doing something like that. Where their personal interests, might influence their projects.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So that's like a great segue to not all students learn the same, right? We all know that. We have visual learners. We have kids who just want to sit there and listen to us and get it from us. We have people who want to actually try it out. That's how most of our class actually works out. And what you just said about, just giving that structure in the class. When Matt and I first started teaching this, I had been teaching earth science for years prior to this, but this was a whole totally different ballpark for me. And just creating different structures in the classroom so I can actually, hit all those entry points and get all the students learning.
Our particular class this semester we have some of our best and some of our worst students in our school in the same class. When I say that, I just mean we have some of our highest performing academic students. We have some of our lowest performing academic students. They all love the challenge and the format of the curriculum. It's a puzzle every day. So I feel like that it's a great way to catch all of our students. And as far as working through the curriculum and pacing in a classroom like that, the Beauty and Joy of Computing and the EDC folks who made the actual curriculum site, which we were following, our students have that curriculum sequence. They have access to that page. A lot of times when we assign work in our class, they're going to that page and they're reading through a lesson. And some of our students they work really fast, they don't want to sit around and just listen to you talk about the concepts, they want to get right into it, they want to experiment. That window is open for them, they can get right into it. And then the curriculum also has a lot of pieces called Take It Further, and when they run out of things to do, there's more advanced work that we're not necessarily grading all of our students on, that they can elaborate on their projects and take a few avenues where they're building their own versions of things that are happening in the lesson. And then this is just a quick look at that actual curriculum page that I was talking about.
It's basically a lab. Like if you've taught science, they call it a lab. It's exactly like, has procedures like a lab. It takes it step by step through it so they can, just read it and follow along. Easier said than done, obviously, but it's definitely helpful.
And then for some of our students that have trouble working through lessons at their own, self-guided lessons or reading instructions on the page, we usually work through our lessons verbally and by demonstration in class as well. And the curriculum page for BJC, this isn't a video right here. This particular image is one of the many little animated gifts that are on the curriculum site. So even a student who would have trouble, with the English language can follow along with the color-coded blocks and just take a look at the examples on the page to build the basics that they need to get the lesson done. So with all these tools together, we can deliver this content to a classroom like we have and have everybody sort of moving at their own pace through the curriculum at the same time, which is really, really amazing.
So as Matt said before, we have social implications, computers in the news. We try to do this each week, weekly. It would be awesome, I think, to do it more, like a couple times a week, even daily.
Yeah.
But time restraints, becomes a little difficult. But this is the point where we can, make it relevant to them. We can talk about, what's going on this week, what's going on today, why is this class important for you? So as simple as an article about, Obama announcing, how much money?
$4 billion.
$4
That's our
billion.
computers in the news for today.
$4 billion.
So $4 billion, in CS education, or something like a new product, self-driving cars. That's what this is. Matt found this. And that really gets them engaged. They're like, oh, I can have a job in this, or I can program this, or I can build this, or I can start the next, whatever.
They also have a chance to steer the content of the classroom, which is really cool. So once or twice a week, we have students leading the content that we're talking about. And we're relating that content to the lessons constantly.
What does that look like? Like, are you saying to them, hey, can you find something in the news about, or
Yeah.
something that draws you?
We start at the beginning of the year, we give them a few different sites like Wired,
New York
Gizmodo,
Times, whatever.
And we tell them to, go on your own, explore, and, we just have them sign up to present on different days. They can present with partners if they want, and then...
They come up to the computer, they come up to the projector, and they just present it as if it was us presenting it, but it's them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that simple. All right, so checks for understanding grading. Google Classroom users.
It's getting better. Their team is based here in New York, and they're constantly improving on it.
I think it's awesome. It's just so immediate and so easy to get the work. It's so easy to give feedback, send it back.
And then the way
you need to Google
Snap is
domain.
structured, the kids have their own accounts, so they have their own collection of all the work they've done when they sign in. So we're basically collecting URLs and checking their live projects on the web. The entire, it's like Scratch. It's cloud-based. It's all up there. So
It sets the structure too, as we were talking about before. Like every class period, with our freshmen in SEP, we do paper do nows and have folders as well as Google Classroom, just because they need that extra structure of coming in and getting a paper do now before they get on computers, and then being quiet and that routine. But with our older kids, a lot of the kids in the class are seniors. They can actually go to the do now right in Google Classroom, submit their work through that, and I think it's just like seamless. I think every teacher should use it, but obviously, I don't have computers, I don't have this, but it's great.
all right. So
yeah.
this should be.
Could you
Yeah.
say some more about the grading?
Yeah.
Is it just collecting the work and making sure they have completed the work, or are there also tests? And if there are tests, do they assess the collaborative activity because they work in collaboration?
Yeah. So
What's your experience?
they send us the link, we look through it, and we make sure the code actually works, it does what it's supposed to. We also look for some ownership in it. Maybe they've changed something, they've changed the colors to make it their own, whatever it may be. And then we give like little quizzes or some sort of Google form we can send out. You want to talk about? We should do a little form thing. Talk about that.
About forms.
That's like how we can assess.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. I mean, some of the, a lot of the sort of checks built into the curriculum have to do with their projects. So there will be moments in their projects where if they get it, you should be able to run this program or this function, and it'll hit these different points. So we're grading a lot of it based on participation in how much they've worked through the lessons, how much they've
we're working with them.
collaborated.
Yeah, we're working with them, so we're seeing it as it goes too. I know it also sounds kind of like we're making up, but you see them as they're working, right? Like, so we're like, I know this kid knows how to do this. There's only 17 of them, there's 2 of us. We teach together, if you haven't caught on to that. So it's pretty easy for us, and a lot of people see us talk about it, and they're like, oh, you guys are together, you have such a small amount of kids, so it's a little easier for us to assess what they know.
There are also some form-based checks built into the curriculum that just have to do with the concepts. But it is still tied to the language. So for example, they'll give you a set of blocks like this at the end of a lesson and ask you to just answer a few questions about it or make a prediction about what it will do. And that's entirely based on
Detail right there,
how you work through the lesson. Are you familiar with these blocks and these concepts? And if we throw you a curveball, can you adapt what you've learned and answer these questions? So there are little quizzes built into the curriculum. And we're basically kind of using those here in our first year as we do it. There isn't a strong quiz and test basis in our grading.
And we haven't completed a year yet. This is our first year doing it, so obviously it's a work in progress. But let's have some fun now, get away from the spiels.
Yeah. One more thing I want to say though, in this curriculum, the sort of final project and the AP exam that they're developing is a collaborative project where they're building a program, they're building a function, something that they design and create and to solve a problem. So I think, I could be wrong, but I think art is one of the other few,
It's the only other AP that has that.
Performance-based, portfolio-based exams, so it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. All right, so take a look at this snap code. Notice that these blocks pertain to motion, direction, and drawing with a pen.
I just wanted to point out, in case there are any people who weren't familiar with Scratch or Snap, that one of the main, the sort of dual nature of working in Scratch or Snap, you've got your sort of code compiling window here, and then you have your window where you're seeing your results. So a really simple example is just doing some drawing programs where you set a pen down, you do movement, you're turning your sprite at a certain angle, it moves again, you're leaving a trace on the page. That's kind of, those are the mechanics of the lesson we're going to just work through right now. All right, so this is a piece of the SNAP curriculum. We're going to jump in and do a lesson based on nested repeats. So I just wanted everyone to take a look at these blocks and make sure everything here kind of makes sense. We're jumping into the middle of our first unit, and this is sort of the preceding unit here. We're moving, we're turning 90 degrees. This is the sort of like line by line code, and we're simplifying it by putting that all inside of the loop. So we're just repeating 2 of those lines 4 times, and we're saving a bunch of lines of code.
So you need to know this in order to do the activity today. Everybody's cool with what's up on the board right now?
Does that make sense?
Raise it. You could be. I don't know what this is. No. Okay. Cool. All right. So pair programming. Find a partner with a computer. Anybody not have a partner? It'll be a lot more fun if you actually do the activity. I promise.
Absolutely.
You'll be really bored if you just sit there and watch. Don't be scared. Just like these guys right here.
Anyone having trouble getting on the Wi-Fi?
Okay. Moving on.
Cool. All right, so before we do anything with the computers, everybody take a look at the board here. And I want you to look at this with your programming partner and see if you can figure out what this series of blocks will do. Take a second to discuss it, and then we'll see what you guys think. Go ahead.
It's going to say hip, hip, hooray, hip, hip, hooray, hip, hip, hooray.
We need the green. Good. Sorry. What does everybody think? I think does that sound right?
Are we cool with that? Yeah, I see some head
Anybody
nods.
strongly disagree?
There's a pause between the hips though,
Why do you say that?
because there's that 2 seconds pause.
Oh,
So it's hip.
Nice. Yeah. There's some time.
more like that. Yeah.
I'm pumped up here.
Great.
Good.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on.
So the answer, you are correct, and I want you to just notice that there's there's a repeat, obviously, inside a repeat. So we've nested a repeat inside of a loop. So we're running two different repeat loops. And you got the sequence right. All right.
Awesome. All right, so let's go.
We've got two addresses for you. We're going to ask you to go to that first bit.ly. That's a 1QMDNU capital H. We're going to open up the Snap page, and we're also going to open up a page of the Snap curriculum. So you're going to see this exactly as our students would, looking at the lesson on the curriculum page, and then looking at Snap, the actual program. So when you go to the Snap page, you're going to see a big white window with a little arrow on it, that first page. What that is that's our sort of animation panel where you can run the program. What we want to do, sort of in the top right corner of that white box, you're going to see a little expand arrow icon. Go ahead and click that, and that's going to open up your entire series of Snap windows where you'll see code, you'll see blocks, and you'll still see that white window.
Also, we forgot to say that all of the links are on that Google Doc that Sean shared out with you guys. So if you were on your computer this morning and you went on that Google Doc, we have the presentation on there. So if you're having trouble typing in anything, just go to that Google Doc and click on our presentation, you can get it.
Yeah. So at the top of that curriculum page, you're going to see the do now that we already did, which is number 1. And I want you guys to move on to number 2 on that curriculum page. It should tell you to build something with blocks. Okay, so we're starting on number 2. Build a script that draws a red triangle. Duplicate it twice and make the 2 new scripts draw a smaller blue triangle and even smaller green one. So I'm gonna jump into Snap right here. For those of you who haven't used Snap or Scratch before, show you a couple techniques about how we can do what this GIF is showing us how to do pretty quickly. When you first get into Snap, you'll see we've got these blocks laid out for you already. These are the basic blocks that we're using in this lesson. We've got a repeat, we've got a move, a turn, a set pen color. And then I also just made this little guy up here at the top. When space key pressed, that will just clear your board, center your sprite, and reset in case your sprite runs away from you and disappears, or you end up with some crazy scribble lines. So if you just hit the space key at any time, it'll just erase your board and bring you back to the middle of the screen. Don't have to have it, but it's nice for it to be there. So when we look at this lesson, what it's trying to get us to do, this is different from our hip hip hooray and also the square blocks we looked at because it's a triangle. You can see that they're telling us to repeat 3 times, move 100 steps, and turn 120 degrees. So let's see if we can assemble that, at least that first one up there, in Snap. You can click and drag these blocks.
So all we're doing is copying that picture?
Yep. We're going to copy that picture. You can change the input numbers in any of these white areas with your cursor.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Spell assignment.
How do you spell assignment?
It's
that way.
There you go.
You didn't see that.
It's French.
So we're going to go repeat. It's French. We're going to go repeat 3. We're going to change this move to 100. And I'm also going to drag this turn inside here. And just like the lesson, turn that to 120 degrees. I'm also going to take this set pen color. You notice if I hover over the blocks, I get this white highlight. That tells me where my block is going to land. I'm just going to drop it right in there. And then here's what I want to show you, what the GIF is showing you how to do kind of quickly. If I want to just duplicate this, which is what we're doing in this lesson, all I want to do is right-click or command-click on a Mac, and then I'll get this little menu. I want to make sure I'm clicking on the orange repeat block, because I want to duplicate the entire thing. And then I get this little menu, and I just go down to duplicate. And there, I get a second one. So let's look back at the assignment. Looks like they want us to make 3 of these. At 100, 50, and 25 with different colors. And do you see how you can change the color as well if you click in that color field? So let's do that. All right, it looks like everybody's ready for number 4, at least. I see some people working ahead, that's good. So now, insert the entire script for the blue triangle between move and turn, the move and turn blocks of the red triangle. You can see how they do it in that little animated GIF there. And again, this is the actual curriculum page that our students are working on. Let's try and do that. Let's see what happens. We're taking our 50 triangle. Let's see, theirs is red and blue. I'm going to make mine the same, so it's not confusing. This little one is good. I'm going to hover until I see that white highlight between move and turn, and then I'm going to drop it right in there.
Is that nested?
That's a great question.
Does anybody know the vocabulary term associated with what Matt just did? Someone whispered it to me before. I think they knew more than they were letting on.
What was the what?
What did he just do?
So what did Matt just do? There's a vocabulary word tied with what did he just do, first and foremost? Matt, you want to do that again?
Let's do it one more time. Let's see if I can.
So this is where we wanted to try to get you at if you're not already there.
I'm literally going to click, drag, and drop this
Between
repeat
the move and the turn.
between the move and the turn.
Drop that there. What do we call that?
Drag and drop.
Drag, drop.
Drag and drop. That's literally what we call it.
He nested the loops. Good.
Ooh,
Thank you so much.
nested.
Nested. What is nesting?
A loop within a loop.
You like build a family in the house.
So are they
Building a family house?
We made a little house. Okay, there's a family now in the house.
We kind of did that.
I like
Yeah.
that. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he nested the loop. That's nesting. It's a little term we could use more often.
So now let's run it. For those of you who didn't delete the little spacebar clear thing we added in here, if you hit spacebar, you can clear your screen, and let's run this nested loop and see what happens. Run it again.
Matt and I like to call that sacred geometry. That's our religion. So we keep that separate. So where's everybody at? I saw a lot of different things. I saw people actually talking out. I had one person off doing a different project. It was a true classroom experience. Was everybody ever able to get to this point? I'm going to take that silence as I'm not going to actually make you share out with me as an indicator that you got there. I see some people actually got further than that. Matt, you want to keep going through it?
Yeah, sure. So, was everyone able to give this number 7 a shot?
Based on their silence, it seems like they got that.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's switch partners. If you guys are doing some true pair programming, you have a driver and a navigator. Let's try swapping. Ooh, look, no one wants to move. Just like my classroom. want to show you just two other example pieces in this curriculum. Number 8. Number 8, if you look up here, it's asking our students to make a prediction on some code, take their hands off the computer for a second, and actually try their hand at making a sketch of what they think it's going to draw. That's kind of interesting. So we're off our computers, and we're kind of like learning to read this code without having our animation panel. So we're actually learning to just kind of go line by line and predict what's going to happen. What's different about these nested loops that you see in this animation than the ones that we just built? The squares. The squares instead of triangles. So we would expect our students to try their hand at maybe drawing what this nested array of squares might look like without running it first.
So is that like a little quiz?
Sure.
Not that I like quizzes.
That would be something I would assign and collect. We would talk about it as well. But. And then here's one of these little another check for understanding piece built into the curriculum to get students used to taking a look at these nested loops and actually learning the sequence of a nested loop. So, can everybody see that little group of blocks at the very bottom of the page? I already heard somebody say the answer. No, that's good. That's all right. How many times is this block going to say if? You know.
Oh, I see.
Anybody have an idea?
Oh, I see.
Tough crowd.
Zero. What? I'm counting 3 loops of 2. That's 6. But it's all nested inside a loop that repeats 0 times. Exactly. Very good. So nothing's going to happen. Trick question. Little check for understanding there. Yes. Yeah, so let's wrap up really quick. We added our links to the sort of community doc that you're all shared on at the beginning of the presentation. But yeah, let's just do a few. If you guys have any questions, you just ask, do students have their own accounts? So yes, that's one of the very first things we do. Everyone logs into Snap, create your own student account, and all of these projects, you can save your work as you go. You can also share your work and get a URL directly to that project. So that's how we end up collecting final projects.
Yeah, they post that on Classroom. So there's a lot more systems in place than were present today in our classroom. But
well, my question was really about that check. So when a student is logged into their Snap account and they're using this format that you created on the computer, are they logged into that as well, so that they click the 0 and they get a check or some sort of assessment?
No. So what that does physically, actually, on the EDC's curriculum website, is it tells you whether you got it correct or you got it wrong. You keep going. So that's a great example, because that's something where I would take that question and I would pop it into my own Google form.
that's what we're talking about.
Or a worksheet, a physical worksheet.
So it's like flip through it and just
Yeah, exactly.
you have an assessment built into the period that you don't have to necessarily take time to assess.
So those curriculum page questions, no, they're not tied to their Snap accounts. That'd be awesome. But this is our first year of running the course too, so we've been trying a lot of different methods. Sometimes I think it took us about a month or two for us to actually start giving them the actual link to these lesson pages like we did today. In the beginning, I was just taking screenshots, building worksheets from the lessons, giving to them piece by piece. I found that a lot of our kids, that's great for some of our kids. A lot of our kids are just working through that way too fast, and they get frustrated, so they kind of want to work at their own pace, and then now they have access to the actual curriculum page. But yeah, for questions like that, I need to sort of recreate that in my own form and try to get that data.
Before you guys do leave, we've never actually presented on this, so I'm just curious what was helpful and what wasn't helpful. We were going to create something to give you guys, but we didn't have an email, so like a form or something, but what was helpful, what wasn't? Yeah.
The lesson format was very helpful, how to present to the students,
Okay.
especially those who don't know how to also do the skills.
Thank you.
The animation, the curriculum of it.
What was that?
The curriculum.
Was what?
It was good.
I heard a question
What's
earlier
up?
about is the whole course in this block language? It's not. So yes, it is. That was one of the biggest concerns I think Sean and I had when we first got trained in this course. And if you look through the curriculum, you guys all have a link to it now. It goes way further and it gets a lot more complicated and interesting. As much as a block language can get. I imagine we're up to lists now, lists of lists, and calling, indexing lists and for loops, while loops. So you can do a lot of stuff with it, but yeah, it does stay in the same language. One of the things that we're doing kind of on our own every once in a while, when we have an interesting project that the kids are building, we'll either ask them to try or build it ourselves on the side in something like JavaScript or Python, so they can see what it looks like in an actual common language. Maybe debug that language based on the block code that they're familiar with using. A lot of our kids, we're a SEP school too. We run the software engineering program, so a lot of our kids are familiar with those languages. Some of them aren't at all, so it's not a mandatory part of our curriculum. But we do like them to see what it looks like in real world coding.
Was your concern that it was completely in STEM because you thought just most of the students know about, or a bunch of the students know about things like Python and JavaScript, and that's what they want to feel in? Or what was your concern about?
Part of it, more the fact that I know some of them that scratch and they're over. Done.
And they want like a real world language that they're going to use. Like, oh, I'm not going to get a job in this. Why would we learn this? And we're like, well, the concepts are what you need to know, and then we have to connect it back to an actual language. So that was the concern, really.
Our course sequence in SEP is to try and hit as many of these concepts as possible, but also covering as many different languages and approaches as possible. So that's tough to do. It's a good balance, but in this course, we're going to get a lot deeper into computer science concepts because we're staying in this one language. We're not relearning, resetting on different syntactic format at a time.
A question about it. So most of your students are in Scratch.
Yeah.
Okay. So in Scratch, the projects are usually animations and games.
Yeah.
Here, you're using good old-fashioned circle geometry. What's the reaction? I mean, would they rather make games, or are they okay with this?
Our students are really into the visuals. They like the turtle geometry. But that's not all we're doing here either. We're building apps right now in the unit that's based in, it's talking about lists, where we're relating it to their contact, list of contacts in their cell phone.
But
How does that
your
work?
entry point is turtle geometry.
Sure,
Yes.
yeah.
And they're okay with it.
Yes. It's also pitched them as like an honors course, and a lot of the kids have moved through the sequence. So they're upperclassmen, and they want to be there for the most part. So that's part of our engagement, which, is a benefit to us.
Do any of them, would you allow them in the course, later in the course, to do games?
Of course, yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely.
In fact, one of the final, they're still adding and editing what the AP exam is. They're adding components of it, but it's a performance portfolio-based group. I think it's pairs. Final project. They're building their own app, and it has to hit certain criteria. They have to be able to write about it and explain it as well. That's the final.
In Snap.
Yeah.
Is this the
When
only?
is that test made available?
At the end of next year.
Is this the only AP where you're not real? The only AP exam offered by whatever placement people who write the APs that's not an independent exam?
I think the art AP,
There is an exam
there is an exam.
in addition to 2 performance tasks.
Yeah, so, and a lot of logistics stuff, you guys can talk to Ankit afterwards. Is that true?
Yeah.
Matt and I are just here to be like preachers about it and tell you, that it's great and tell you about our experiences. Logistical stuff, we're still finding out, and Ankit's a great source for you.
Is it great?
Yeah, it is. It really is great. I love it.
Can you play with images and music files and stuff?
Yes.
Is there a list of completed projects where kids can look at whatever kids have done and say, wow, look at that program? Can I modify
So
it?
Scratch has that. They don't have that yet.
We'll do that.
We'll do that. We're working. It's gonna happen.
Do we have a GAF group for this?
I don't know.
Yeah, what's the most complex project that somebody could reasonably make with Snap? Like, can you make things like websites or mobile apps, or is it just like these standalone programs?
You can send that to your phone right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for you personally, what was helpful in your background? Are you teachers by profession, math teachers? What's helpful? What do you think? Do you need computer science or mathematical?
I'm a science teacher. I have a background in science, more earth and environmental sciences, so really kind of far off from this, but yeah, I mean, by trade, I was an earth science teacher for a long time now, teaching computer science.
Yeah, you are graphic design and some web design, but you don't need any prior computer science experience to get trained in this.
What did you decide to do this?
It's fun to teach. It's a lot of fun to teach this.
We got lucky to be a part of the first STEP cohort 3 years ago, and we've just stuck with it. It's been great.
At our school, we don't have the resources to run we run 3 total computer science courses, just one section of each. I wish we had the resources right now to do more, but we don't. The class is in high demand, and our students really like it.
And there's lacking teachers, as we said before. We desperately need more trained, CS teachers, and there's not even a certification for it or a pathway to become that teacher. So, and that I think is in the works. So,
We're working on it.
yeah.